Your great-grandmother did not have a savings account. She did not have an index fund. She did not have a financial advisor or a subscription to a budgeting app. What she had was a set of money habits so deeply practical that most of them still outperform the advice you will find in any personal finance book published in the last 20 years. The difference is that nobody is talking about them anymore. The financial industry replaced them, not because they stopped working, but because they do not generate fees. There are 13 tricks on this list. Every one of them was in common use by ordinary American households before 1970. Every one of them was quietly pushed aside when the modern financial system decided that simplicity was bad for business. And every one of them still works in 2026, often better than the alternative being sold to you today. These are the 13 money-making tricks Americans used, and why your grandparents understood something the market does not want you to remember. Trick number 13, the spare room dividend, before Airbnb, before the sharing economy had a name. The spare room dividend was simply this: if you have a room in your house that sits empty, that room is costing you money every single month. American families understood this instinctively through most of the 20th century. The boarder, a working adult renting a room from a family, was a standard feature of middle-class household economics through the 1950s. It was not considered charity or desperation. It was considered sensible. In 2026, a furnished spare room in any American city with a population over 50,000 rents for $700 to $1,500 per month. That is $8,400 to $18,000 per year, from a room that is currently holding old furniture and boxes of things you have not looked at since 2019. One family in suburban Columbus rented their spare bedroom for the first time in 2023, initially through a short-term platform, then to a traveling nurse on a 3-month contract. They have not had the room empty since. Last year, it generated $14,400. Their mortgage stayed the same. Their financial pressure did not. The trick is not finding a platform. The trick is making the decision your grandparents made without thinking twice about it. Empty space is not storage. It is money. Trick number 12, the produce arbitrage. Before grocery stores stocked the same 40 varieties of produce shipped from 500 miles away, Americans understood that food had seasons and that seasons created price gaps. The produce arbitrage is simple. Buy in bulk at peak season when prices collapse, preserve the surplus, and consume it through the off-season when prices recover. A flat of strawberries at peak season costs $3. The same flat in January, if you could find it, costs $14. Canning, freezing, fermenting, and dehydrating are not hobbies. They are the original inflation hedge. A family that processes 50 pounds of tomatoes in August at roughly 40 cents per pound at a farmer's market or from a local farm and converts them into canned sauce spends $20 on product and an afternoon on labor. The equivalent in jarred sauce at a grocery store through the winter is over $120. That is a $100 return on a single afternoon. Scaled across a full season, stone fruits, corn, tomatoes, apples, and squash, a household that commits to seasonal processing can cut its annual grocery bill by $1,500 to $3,000 without changing what it eats. Those are real savings. Your great-grandmother did not call this a strategy. She called it October. Trick number 11, the skill barter network. Before the gig economy had platforms and processing fees, Americans traded skills directly. The plumber fixed the accountant's pipes, the accountant filed the plumber's taxes, nobody paid anybody. Both parties were better off. Formal barter networks, where participants register their skills and exchange services through a credit system, still exist in most American cities and have grown significantly since 2020. A licensed massage therapist trades sessions for legal consultations. A graphic designer trades branding work for dental care. A handyman trades repairs for bookkeeping. The tax treatment of barter income is technically the same as cash income, which means this trick requires honesty with your accountant. But the practical advantage is significant. Barter eliminates the middleman markup on services, collapses what would be a cash transaction into a direct exchange, and builds a network of capable people who owe each other favors. One woman in Portland belongs to a local barter network with 200 members. Last year, she traded 60 hours of her copywriting services for dentistry, roof repairs, tax preparation, and 3 months of yoga classes. The cash value of what she received was $6,000. The cash she spent was $0. Her grandfather would have recognized the logic immediately. Trick number 10, the Library of Things. Your grandfather did not own a tile saw. He borrowed one from the neighbor who used it to retile his bathroom, who had borrowed it from the guy down the street who used it once when he redid his kitchen, who got it from his father-in-law who did it professionally. The tool circulated. Nobody paid retail for something they needed for a single weekend. The ownership cost was shared across everyone who used it, which meant everyone paid approximately nothing. The modern version is a tool library, a membership organization often run by a public library or community group that stocks everything from power tools to pasta makers and loans them out for free or for a nominal fee. As of 2026, over 4,000 tool libraries operate in the United States. The average member saves $1,100 per year in tool purchases and storage costs. But the deeper trick is the mindset. Before you buy anything, you will use fewer than 5 times, such as a ladder, a wet saw, a wallpaper steamer, a carpet cleaner, or a pressure washer. Ask whether you can borrow it, rent it, or find someone who already owns it. The answer is almost always yes. Retail purchases are the exception. Your grandfather knew this. The hardware store does not want you to. Trick number 9, the rotating pantry. The rotating pantry is not a coupon strategy. It is not a prepper fantasy. It is the oldest inventory management system in domestic history, and the American households that used it through the mid-20th century were effectively running a grocery store inside their own homes at wholesale prices. The principle is simple. Buy non-perishables at their lowest price point in quantity. Rotate stock so nothing expires. Never pay full price for anything that has a sales cycle. Canned goods, pasta, rice, dried beans, coffee, cooking oil, every one of these products goes on sale on a predictable cycle, typically every 6 to 8 weeks at major grocery chains. This cycle is predictable. A household that tracks those cycles and buys 6 to 12 weeks of supply at the sale price pays, on average, 30 to 40% less than a household that buys week to week at whatever price is current. On a grocery budget of $800 per month, a 40% reduction is $3,840 per year. That is not a rounding error. That is a car payment. That is 4 months of utility bills. Your grandmother did not think of it as a system. She thought of it as not being foolish with money. Notice what all 5 of those tricks have in common. None of them require an app. None of them require a financial product, a subscription, or a platform that takes a percentage. They require only the willingness to think about money the way people thought about it before money became an industry. The modern financial system is extraordinarily good at turning simple things complicated, because complicated things generate fees, and fees generate profits for everyone except the person paying them. Your grandparents were not unsophisticated, they were unmanipulated. There is a difference. Number 8. The next 5 get more specific. Each one has a direct modern application that most people are standing next to without realizing it. Trick number 8, the layaway mindset in reverse. Layaway, the practice of paying for something in installments before taking it home, was eliminated from most American retail in the early 2000s when credit cards made it unnecessary. The stores dropped it because credit is more profitable than patience. You pay full price immediately, and then you pay interest on top. The reverse trick is this: apply layaway logic to your own savings. Pick a specific purchase, a new appliance, a vacation, a home repair, and open a dedicated sub-account at your bank. Deposit a fixed amount each week. When the account hits the purchase price, buy it with cash. This sounds unremarkable until you run the numbers. A $3,000 HVAC repair financed at 22% annual percentage rate over 2 years costs $447 in interest. The same repair saved for over 7 months costs nothing extra, and it leaves the saver with a habit that compounds across every future purchase. American households in the 1950s and 1960s maintained an average savings rate of approximately 8 to 10% of income. In 2024, that rate was 3.5%. The credit card did not improve the American standard of living. It borrowed against it. Your grandparents knew the difference between owning something and owing for it. Trick number 7, the side door wholesale account. Your grandfather did not pay retail for lumber. He knew someone at the supply house who would sell to him at contractor rates if he bought enough and came consistently. The side door wholesale account, an informal but genuine discount available to anyone willing to establish a relationship rather than a transaction, exists in almost every industry, and almost nobody under 40 knows to ask for it. Restaurant supply stores are open to the public in most states. Wholesale clubs offer commercial membership tiers. Building supply companies offer contractor pricing to anyone who registers a business, which costs less than $100 in most states and takes an afternoon to complete. Grocery distributors sell case quantities to households willing to pick up at a warehouse. The markup between wholesale and retail on everyday consumables, cleaning supplies, paper goods, canned food, cooking oil, runs between 30 and 60%. A household spending $400 per month on consumables at retail is spending $160 in pure markup. At wholesale rates, that household has an additional $2,000 per year without changing what it buys. The trick is simply asking. Most of the pricing tiers that businesses reserve for commercial customers are available to any individual who asks directly, demonstrates consistency, and does not expect hand-holding. Your grandfather walked in the side door. Most people today don't know there is one. Trick number 6, the skill monetization window. Every American adult has at least one skill that took years to develop, and that other people are currently paying a stranger to perform. The skill monetization window is the gap between what you already know and what the market will pay for it, a gap that most people leave permanently open because they never thought to close it. A former nurse who left the profession still knows how to perform a wound assessment. Parents in her neighborhood pay urgent care clinics $250 for the same evaluation. An accountant who works for a firm still knows how to prepare a tax return. Independent preparation costs $150 to $300 per client. A retired electrician still knows how to install a ceiling fan. Handymen charge $90 for the same job. The skill monetization window does not require building a business. It requires telling 3 people what you know how to do and being willing to do it for a fair price. One retiree in Michigan who spent 30 years as a high school Spanish teacher now tutors adults preparing for trades with significant Spanish-speaking workforces. She charges $60 per hour, works 10 hours per week, and earns $30,000 per year from a skill she already owned. Your grandparents did not retire from their knowledge. They kept using it until they did not want to anymore. The distinction is important. Trick number 5, the depreciation purchase. The most expensive moment to buy almost anything is the moment it becomes new. A car loses 12% of its value in the first month of ownership. A piece of commercial kitchen equipment loses 40% in the first year. A high-end tool loses a third of its value the moment it is removed from the box. Your grandfather understood this without having a word for it. The depreciation purchase is the habit of buying things at their steepest depreciation point, typically 1 to 3 years into their life cycle, and using them through their remaining productive years at a fraction of the new price. A 2-year-old used car with 30,000 miles costs, on average, 40% less than its new equivalent. It will likely run for another 100,000 miles. The buyer captures nearly all of the useful life of the product at well under half the cost. A commercial-grade stand mixer bought, used from a restaurant that closed costs $60, new is $450. It has 20 years of useful life remaining. American consumer culture was rebuilt after World War II around the concept of newness as a virtue. Buy new. Upgrade constantly. The previous generation, shaped by the Depression and rationing, knew that new was a luxury and that used was simply sensible. In 2026, with depreciation data available to any smartphone, the information advantage your grandfather had to earn through relationships is now free. Every trick in this video is built on the same underlying principle. The gap between what something costs and what it is worth is almost always wider than the market wants you to notice. The spare room is worth more than storage space. The skill is worth more than retirement. The used car is worth more than its price tag implies. The wholesale account is worth more than the retail relationship. Your grandparents navigated these gaps instinctively because they had to. In 2026, you have better information, better tools, and better access. You just need to remember to look. 3 left. These 3 are the ones that cut deepest because they challenge not just what you do with money, but how you think about it. Trick 3, the compound repair. In 1955, the average American family kept a major appliance for 17 years. Today, that number is 8. Not because modern appliances fail faster, though many of them do, but because the cultural reflex to repair has been almost entirely replaced by the cultural reflex to replace. The compound repair trick is the recognition that repairing a functional item is almost always cheaper than replacing it, and that the habit of repair, applied consistently across a household, compounds into extraordinary savings over time. A washing machine repair costs between $150 and $300. A new washing machine costs $800 to $1,500. A refrigerator seal replacement costs $60 in parts and an afternoon of YouTube. A new refrigerator costs $1,200. A leather boot resoled costs $80. A new pair of equivalent boots costs $400. One couple in rural Pennsylvania committed to a 1-year repair experiment in 2023. Before replacing anything, they required themselves to research and attempt a repair. At the end of the year, they tallied the results. 12 items repaired, $200 in parts, 0 replacements. Estimated replacement cost, if they had followed their previous instincts, was $6,100. Net savings, $5,900 in 1 year from a single habit. Your grandparents did not think of repair as an inconvenience. They thought of replacement as a failure of imagination. The repair manual for most modern appliances is on YouTube. The parts are on eBay. The only thing missing is the decision to look. Trick number 2, the relationship banking advantage. Before the era of online banking, automated customer service, and interest rates set by algorithm, Americans banked with people. The bank manager knew the customer. The customer knew the bank manager. And that relationship, that specific human reciprocal relationship, was worth real money. The relationship banking advantage still exists in 2026. It exists at community banks and credit unions, which collectively hold over $2 trillion in assets and serve over 130 million Americans who have specifically chosen them over the national chains. And it operates on a principle that algorithms cannot replicate. When you are a known, consistent, trustworthy customer, the bank will often do things for you that the fee schedule says it should not. Fees waived, loan rates negotiated, overdraft charges reversed with a phone call, an SBA loan approved for a small business that a national bank's algorithm would have declined, a line of credit extended during a difficult period to a customer with a 20-year relationship instead of a new applicant with a credit score. One small business owner in rural Iowa has banked at the same community bank for 19 years. Last year, when an equipment supplier demanded payment 30 days before a large contract cleared, his banker advanced the funds against the receivable, informally, quickly, without the paperwork a national bank would have required. The deal closed. The relationship was the collateral. Your grandfather would have understood this immediately. He would not have understood why anyone would choose otherwise. Trick number 1, the ownership mentality. Number 1, this is not a tactic. It is not a system, a schedule, or a negotiating move. It is the single organizing principle that made every other trick on this list possible, and the modern economy has spent 50 years methodically replacing it with its opposite. Your grandparents owned things, not rented them, not subscribed to them, not financed them indefinitely. They owned them outright without ongoing obligation, with the full economic benefit flowing to the household instead of to a creditor, a landlord, or a platform. They owned their tools, so when a neighbor needed them, they could lend them without asking permission. They owned their home, so when the mortgage burned, an event many families celebrated with a literal ceremony, housing costs dropped to taxes and maintenance. They owned their car, so when the payment ended, the car continued. They owned their skills, so when they retired, the skills came with them. The modern economy has replaced ownership with access, and access, almost without exception, is more expensive than ownership over any meaningful time horizon. A music subscription costs $120 per year and owns nothing. $1,000 of music owns it forever. A software subscription compounds across decades. Software owned outright does not. A leased car generates monthly payments indefinitely. An owned car eventually does not. The households that are quietly comfortable in 2026, not wealthy, not ostentatiously frugal, just quietly and persistently ahead, are almost always the ones that chose ownership over access, equity over rent, and patience over the convenience of someone else's payment plan. Here is the honest version of what this list is. It is not a list of secrets. These tricks were common knowledge, household knowledge passed at kitchen tables, in hardware store conversations, and through the quiet example of watching someone who managed money well do the things they always did. What happened to them is not mysterious either. The financial industry grew, the retail industry grew, the subscription economy grew, and each time it grew, it had a strong incentive to replace the thing your grandparents did for free with a product you would be charged for. Layaway became a credit card. The barter network became a gig platform. The spare room became a managed short-term rental with a 15% service fee. The pantry became a grocery delivery subscription. Every one of those replacements is more convenient. Every one of them is also more expensive. And the cost is paid not in a single visible transaction, but in a slow, monthly, nearly invisible accumulation of obligations that leaves the average household in 2026 spending more and owning less than their grandparents did on a fraction of the income. So pick one thing from this list, one habit, one mindset, the repair, the pantry, the spare room, the relationship at the bank, Try it for 90 days and see what it changes. Then come back and tell me which one you started. Drop the number in the comments, because the people who built financial stability in this country did it with habits, not hacks. And most of those habits are still available, still free, and still completely ignored. If you want to make even more money, go watch the video about forgotten side hustles that still work in 2026. Go watch that video next. Goodbye.